So I'd like to welcome everyone to today's presentation with Shola. Thank you so much, as always, for being here with us. Today's session is When All Seems Lost, the Power of Affirmation and Intention. What a great title. I'm excited to hear what's in store for us today, especially in today's times. So with that, I shall turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. So, welcome, people. When all seems lost, the power of affirmation. And I'm always brought in mind when I think of affirmation, of that statement in the Bible. I think it's John 1. I'm not actually a Christian, but I do remember this. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God." And it goes on to say some more things, but I particularly like that aspect. The idea of the word as being somehow numinous, of being somehow generative and creative. And it seems to me that it's actually if you like, it's a guiding principle of our times for the passion that we have, that arises from the courage to face things, the faith to continue, is empowered and catalyzed by the thoughts that we have about situations and our decision to think thoughts and speak words that serve us. Speak words that empower us in situations. I'm mindful of the hero's journey, which was a term coined by Joseph Campbell, who was a mythologist of the 20th century, and he spoke about stages of the hero's journey. And I'm not going to go into each stage, but just to say that one of the stages is about darkness, death, being overwhelmed, being in a situation where one faces monsters, where life feels as if there is no energy in it, that death is present. And we are in this time of witnessing on our TV screens horrific scenes of people dropping like flies in India, but also people being shot in various parts of the world, famines in different places. Most of us at this time know somebody close to us who has passed away, even if not from COVID. But definitely the other day when I went to a florist and said, I don't know if in the States or in other parts of the world you celebrate Valentine's Day. I don't personally, but in the UK it's a big thing. And florists do best on that day out of any other day of the year. And I spoke to a florist. I needed to speak to the florist because I had to make up some lost ground with my wife. And flowers are often a good way of beginning the conversation. So I went to the florist and I said, have you done well this year? Did Valentine's Day meet your expectations? And she said, it did, but we have done better than ever because of the number of deaths. There's never been a time like this. We've been doing excellent business all year round, which is not usually the case for florists. So anyway, it's just to acknowledge that death is very present at the moment. Indeed, in some ways, it always is, but it's much more present in our in our shared imagination in these times than it might usually be. And because of this, we need something perhaps that is like an antidote. I don't want to use the word vaccine because of its resonance at the moment. So we need something that is an antidote, something that cannot stave off death, but can stave off the death of the imagination, the powerlessness that comes from despair and from focusing on despair. Because our minds are nothing if not generative. And our minds, if we do not affirm things deliberately, positively, in the direction of those things that we desire in our lives, qualities and material things, emotional resonances, then our minds will do the affirmation for us. And that affirmation may not be positive, but it will still be an affirmation, because the power of thoughts and the power of words that unite with those thoughts is a force. It's a force for manifestation. Manifestation, man in French, hand, bringing things into our hands, manifestation. So my request today is that we really tune in as much as is possible to what goes on in our own minds. Radio me. What is radio me saying? Or if you're younger and radio doesn't have resonance for you, then what playlist is looping in your mind when you're not watching out? Because that's the playlist that probably loops in your mind in general. And is it a playlist that serves you or not? That remains to be seen. So today, my goals, as always, are to use storytelling to expand, and I'm just going to read this list, to use storytelling to expand our creative possibilities, to harness the power of the group in service of creative endeavor, and to explore affirmation as part of our personal evolution. And perhaps I should add group evolution, because, as I've said on a few occasions, the wisdom is actually in the group. So each of us is able to grow and benefit from the wisdom that all of us share. And this brings me, in fact, to the agreement. So I've said no put downs of self or others, which is even more relevant today because we're talking about affirmations than it might otherwise be. And to really try to pay attention to that voice that wants to put us down, that has us not ask questions or answer questions because of what we think the response of perhaps me or other people on the platform might be. So to just silence that voice for a while, or at least mitigate it with a more positive voice. Be willing to try new things. So we may do some things that are unfamiliar to you and some things that are familiar to you, but even if they are, please have a beginner's mind around those. Participate fully according to you. Be yourself. Be Zantong and Ledine, and not Sola and Lisa in your approach to participation. And be willing to share your reflections. The wisdom is in the group, as I've said. And also, have fun. If you can have fun, it becomes so much easier to learn. Joy is an organizing principle. There is much neurological science, actually, evidence that shows that those who are able to laugh longer live longer and are healthier and are able to adapt to changes. And it's said that children laugh, I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm in the right ballpark when I say children are said to laugh 44 times a day, adults 3. So there is something that happens between childhood and adulthood that has us become much more serious and professional and much more able to look at life in a serious way and not laugh. Not laugh. Laughter is good. I'm going to now, if you'll permit me, to ask us all to just join in a group wake-up exercise. So you can remain sitting if that's better for you, if you have any injuries. What I would say to you is that whatever I ask you to do, if it's a physical thing, make sure that you exercise self-care. Practice self-care. So if something is beyond you or you feel that it's going to be painful, please don't do it just because I invited you to do it. Do what you know is best for you. So for those of you who are willing to, if you'll stand, and I'm going to push this back and hope that the world will remain intact as I do so. Hopefully you can, yeah, that would do. So what I'm going to do is a Qigong exercise, and in the martial practice that I have, which is called KaZimba, which is an African practice, we call it opening the gates. And the way this works, you won't be able to see the whole of me, but what I'm doing is I'm softening my knees. So I'm standing with my back as straight as I can, in as comfortable a way as I can. So I'm not rigid and I'm relaxed. My knees are softened, so they're not exactly locked into straightness. And I'm sitting on my coccyx, aiming to keep my neck and my spine in alignment. Now, what you can't see, so I'll show you, I'm on tiptoe now, is that my hands are going to be hitting just above my groin and below my belly button in this way. So I'm going to show you where you can see, just so that you know what I'm doing. So one hand will be hitting my coccyx, or just above my coccyx, and one hand will be hitting just above my abdomen. And I'll be swinging, and as I swing, I'll be hitting in the position I just described, as opposed to the position that you can see. So you can't see my hands now, but rest assured, I'm hitting just above my abdomen lightly, so it's more of a tap than a punch, and just above my coccyx at the back, and exchanging the hands that hit or tap those places. And whilst we're doing this, which is opening the energy gates, what we can also be doing is thinking positive thoughts purposefully. If you like, we can be thinking positive thoughts that relate to grounding and the earth. And the term I am is very powerful in this moment and in the whole construct of affirmation. So we can be saying, I am grounded, I am healthy, every day in every way, I am healthier and healthier. I know what I want. I am able to bring into being those things that I need. And then we take it up. So one hand still hitting just above the coccyx at the back, and one hand hitting the chest, just above the breast, actually, just tapping those energy points, not too hard. We're not trying to give ourselves a beating, but rather a gentle massage. And as we're here, perhaps we can affirm those things that are perhaps of a different element, let's say water, so I can bring more flow into my life. I can engage with challenges in a way that does not put me in any deficit, energetically, physically, or otherwise. I am able to offer the whole of myself to all events that may occur in my life. And these are affirmations that I am saying at the moment. You can take those affirmations in, or as I'm sure some of you are doing, you are affirming things that will serve you directly in relation to the happenings in your life and your desires, needs at this present moment. And then we can move again now, still hitting the coccyx or just above the coccyx at the back, but changing the other hand to just hitting behind our shoulder blades and tapping our shoulder blades with our fingertips, just behind, just below the shoulder blade. Still keeping the same swinging motion and still affirming. And perhaps we can bring in air or even fire. And we can say that I am affirming the possibility of being all that I need to be, of learning all that I need to know, of being in the breath, knowing that this breath is a gift that keeps on giving, and that this body is also that, and that as I breathe, so too do my thoughts, and so too do my words find resonance in the material world, and that the breath aligned with thoughts is a powerful alchemical thing. And we can go back down again to the chest just above the breast as we continue hitting the back with our just above our coccyx and concentrating once again perhaps on water. And we can continue to affirm flow and affirm adaptability and affirm the ability to actually find ways of adapting to all the situations, all the thoughts, all the relationships, all the conflicts that we may encounter in this life. And back once again to being just above the groin and just below the abdomen, still keeping in the same flow and probably feeling quite warm now, and affirming once again that I am grounded, I am deep, I have the depth of eternity within me. My ancestors are grounded in this body here and now. I am the pinnacle of my ancestors' descent. They are with me on this earth right now because I am here. And we can take a deep breath and stay in stillness just for about 10 seconds, breathing in through our noses and out through our nose. And if you imagine a ball of energy in your hands, and as I'm speaking to an energy healing school, I'm sure that that's not difficult to do, and just place that ball where you feel you need it most at this moment in time. And let's return to sitting. Now, I don't know about you, but that was very energizing for me, and I hope it was for you too. So now I'm going to tell you a story. And as always, my stories are, Mary Tatarin says, that was fun. Thank you. You're most welcome. Indeed it was. So thank you also for participating with me. I never feel lonely when I'm here. So I'm going to tell you a story, and the story is called The Barakad. Now, this is an epic story, and actually I could tell this story for a few days. And I'm going to attempt to truncate it into 10 or so minutes. So I always begin with in a place far from here, but near to there. And I can see that Kathy is actually joining in with me. And I would ask that all of you join with me when I say in a place far from here. I would like you to say, but near to there. And it's fine if you say on mute, because I can still see you Rev Jennifer, and I can still see you, Benedetta, as you respond to my prompt. So, in a place far from here, but near to there. I said, in a place far from here, but near to there.
But near to there.
Mm-hmm. I said, in a place far from here, but near
to there.
Thank you, Rev Jenny. My Baraka, the Mo, was a scion of the land of Kanem, a place historically which lay in the boundaries of what is now Nigeria, Chad, Niger. And Kanem was a mighty land at this time, circa 12th, 13th century. My Baraka was a son of Belikani, a mighty queen, and Garumet, a Frankish knight. Mai was a mixed-race individual, and his lineage was mighty on both sides, uniting in some ways the religions of the sword, which were Christianity and Islam, which shaped and reshaped the world at that time in mighty tumultuous wars. But although these were the religions of the land, his people kept to the old faith, and as such were continuously under threats. My childhood was a blessed one. His mother, Belikani, treated him as a jewel, but not a jewel to be cosseted, but actually a jewel to be polished and a sword to be honed. So he was trained in the arts of poetry, of science and philosophy, and also the arts of war. He was trained that fighting was a dance, and that dancing was a way to connect the soul with the body. One thing about Mai that felt for him like a lack was that his father, Garumet, did not stay long and left him and his mother and went back to Europe, where, in fact, if you have heard of the legend of Parsifal, the Grail Knight, you will know that Parsifal's father was called Garumet, and that Garumet, and that Parsifal had a mixed race brother in Africa, and this is a story of that brother, which has not been told anywhere else. So, the young man missed his father. However, he had an uncle called Ogu, and Ogu was a mighty blacksmith of the land of Ife. And Mai loved to watch him as he would beat his hammer on a sword, on an anvil, with a power and a dexterity that was almost delicate. And he always had a red glow around his body as he forged, as if from some internal mystical fire. My childhood was a blessed one. Uncle Ogu took him to hunt with his age set, and he encountered many dangers along that way, but was always protected by the might of Uncle Ogu and his guardians. It may very well have been an idyllic life for Mai had it not been for a mixed band of rebels, outlaws, and mercenaries who, with the incentive of cash coming from a traitorous courtier known as Lord Sumare, decided to end the harmony of Belekani's courts and to describe the attack, to talk of the body scattered far and wide, to speak of the despair of the hardened warriors as they were overcome by a sorcery that they had not encountered before or counted on. To speak of these things would be to also speak of the way in which these beasts, if they were men, destroyed the dignity of the women of the courts. And Mai was forced to watch as his mother was violated. But even as she was violated, she looked him in the eyes and said, "My son, don't hate. Do not hate. Love is your destiny. Remember this, my son," as her life was ended in a cruel way by the slash of a knife across her throat. And if you can imagine how a young man would feel watching this occur not only to his mother, which is the one that had the most impact on him, but to all his aunts, to all the women of the court. Let it not be said, though, that the people of Kanem did not fight back. It's just that they were overwhelmed by the numbers, but certainly not in skill, for they were peerless warriors. But their skill was not enough. They had been betrayed internally. Mai did not remember much that happened after that, except that he remembered being slung over the back of a camel and being carried away, looking every so often and seeing behind him people being dragged in chains, dragged all the way to a mine in the far outpost of the Empire of Ghana, which was an empire that ruled at that time, not the present day Ghana. Mai's next few years were underlined by violence. And although his mother said to him, "Do not hate," also by hatred. Mai was taken to the mine of Mosima and made into a fighting slave, for the people who captured him had seen his arms, his body, and knew that he would be able to fight. And so they had put him in the slave pit, in a place called the Moor. The Moor was an arena, an underground arena in this mine of Mosima, and the overseers would take bets from the surrounding population around who would win inside the Moor. And on Mai's first day, he was taken into this arena, and he would always remember the roars of the crowd as the head overseer, Al Farouk, shouted, "Today we fight! Today we die!" And the response of the crowd as they roared, "Today we step into eternity!" Al Farouk looked at the young boys and he said to them, "You will fight each other. You have no choice, for if you do not, our soldiers will kill you. So your choice is to kill your opponent or to be killed by the soldiers. But somebody will die. That is for certain. If one of you chooses not to fight, we will kill both of you. So you may as well fight, because today we fight. Today we die. Today we step into eternity. And so Mai was left with no option, because he had a litany going on in his mind, which was kill the monsters that destroyed my family. Kill especially the tattooed man that killed my mother. Kill Al-Farouk, the slave master. And he had this going on and on and on. So for him, escape was paramount. He needed to get free so that he could exact his revenge. So when he was attacked by the long-haired, blonde young boy of Germanic origin, he spared no thought for the fact that this was a boy. And fighting with the skill that he had been taught swiftly ended this young man's life. And so Mai settled into a routine. Death, healing, training, death, healing, training. Every day was the same to him. Every day was the same to the other boys. Mai only remembered to think of his revenge. Everything else seemed surreal. He didn't know where he was, what he was doing from one minute to the other, except when it came to fighting. One day, as he had grown many years later into a warrior of fearsome repute in the Mo, he faced a warrior also of fearsome repute from another stable, for the overseers kept what they called stables of slaves, and they received much prestige for the fighting ability of their stable. Mai was in Al-Farouk's stable, which made him even more determined to end this fiend's life. And he faced a young man named Isaac. Isaac was a man just like Mai, probably too of royal descent. A man who knew no compassion and no mercy, and was highly skilled. And when they clashed, had it not been a purposeful and disgusting fight to the death, it would have been magical to watch, for they moved with such grace, a sublime battle fury, and incredible fluid skill. They exchanged blow after blow after blow, and though Mai prevailed and was able to kill Isaac, he was severely injured, perhaps even mortally so. Al-Farouk kept a healer of great renown, a man called Dame. Dame was said to have an almost magical skill with healing. And when Mai was laid on the table in front of Dame, Dame's heart skipped a beat. He looked at his assistant, Masina, and said, Masina, I think this is the man we have been waiting for. I think this is him. For Dame had felt a compulsion to come to this pit and offer his services as a healer, not because he wanted to be in that mine, but because a divination had told him that he would meet a man of great destiny in that pit, and that he would know him when he saw him. And so he felt a resonance at that moment as he looked at the young man under his care. And swiftly he placed his hands on this man in his chakra points, and healing flowed from his hands into this young man. As the young man was healed in an almost magical way, which I'm sure I don't need to explain to many of you here, the young man was restored to health. And when he opened his eyes, he saw Dame and Masina. And as he was about to speak, the healing fatigue overwhelmed him and he fell into a deep sleep. And in this sleep, he saw himself in a long tunnel walking along. And at the bottom of the long tunnel, he could see two glowing yellow orbs. And walking closer, he realized that these orbs were connected to a face, the face of a mighty lion, a lion of such proportions as he had never before witnessed. And this lion began to run towards him. As it ran, and Mai, being the warrior that he was, still felt fear and turned round and ran for his life. And as the lion leapt, Mai woke up. He was still on the table. He could see the old man and the young boy who was the assistant. And he said, "Where am I?" "Young man, you have come to me in a very fortuitous way, and we must now leave this space." "Leave this space? How? Are you aware of where we are? Nobody can get out of here. Many have tried, old man. It's not possible. It's not possible. The only way to get out is to become a free man. And the only way to become a free man is to buy one's freedom through being the paramount warrior. And that is what I will become." "I see you are still vengeful. Is that what your mother told you, young man?" Mai could not believe that this man was talking about his mother. "How did you know?" But even though he rebuked what the old man was saying, he still could not forget. Don't hate. Love is your power. And though he tried as much as possible to replace it with kill Al-Farouk, kill the tattooed man, destroy all those who hurt my family so. Every so often, in the gaps of his awareness, he would hear his mother's voice. Don't hate. Love is your power. Mai looked at the man and said, "Okay, if you are going to be free, let's do it now." He did not believe for a second that it was possible, which is why his jaw dropped open as Dame walked over to the wall, placed his palm on the wall, and the wall became transparent. And through the wall, he could see a forest. "But there are no forests around here," he shouted. "Never mind, young man. Just follow me. Because you don't understand does not mean that it is not so. Follow me." His assistant, Masina, laughed loudly, peals of clean laughter, as he said, "Yes, follow my master. Follow him, even if your senses cannot believe what you are seeing." And so Mai walked through the wall, which is what he was doing in his mind, and found himself in this forest. And they spent many, many days, months, perhaps even years, for as time passed for Mai, he was not able to record what was occurring, but he did know this. He began to feel again. The words of his mother were present in his mind more often, and Dame's teachings, along with Masina's friendship, was somehow awakening with him within him, something that he had not experienced for a long time, but he could put no name to it. So unfamiliar was he with this feeling. But certainly, although he's still focused on revenge, somehow, don't hate. Love is your power. We're sponsoring other thoughts now. Thoughts like, I can heal. Perhaps my destiny is not death. Maybe there is another way. And his friendship with Masina was growing exponentially daily until the point when one day, as Masina was taking a bath, he realized that Masina was not a boy at all. Masina was female, but had disguised herself as a boy because of where she was in the mind of Mosima, knowing what would have occurred had anyone known that she was female. And she had never revealed this to Mai, and neither would she have. But let's just say that upon realizing that Masina was a girl, the relationship between them changed somewhat. And we won't go into that in depth. But if you were around for the rest of the story, you would know that some romantic things occurred. Mai continued in the training that Dame gave him, which, unlike his prior training, consisted much more of sitting down, of silence, and of meditation. Yes, training in a martial form, but of flowing movements that had no deadly aim. And Mai began to resonate with the song of the birds and the feeling of the breath as the wind blew gently through the leaves. He heard the animals in the undergrowth and enjoyed the sounds of the crickets in the night. And his heart began to thaw. And he fell asleep one night and saw again the lion. And the lion ran towards him. And this time he stood still. And as the lion pounced, he awoke again and saw coming towards him the tattooed man, the man responsible for his mother's death and violation. Right there, galloping towards him on a horse, spear leveled at Mai's breast, hate in his eyes, and Mai leapt out of the way just in time and turned, and a fight ensued amongst them, and none was superior to the other, but Mai was more determined. And eventually Mai hit the man on the side of a temple with a blow that floored him, and Mai held his own spear over the man's throat, and all the hate in his heart and in his mind began to turn in a tumult, and Mai stood over him trembling, yearning to plunge the point of the spear into the man's throat. But just as he was about to do that, he saw the lion, and this time, in his mind, the lion placed its paws on my shoulders and looked him in the eyes with eyes of infinite depth and compassion and love. And somehow this resonated all through Mai's being. And Mai dropped the spear and instead sang a note of such pure harmony. And the man on the ground covered his ears as though this note was overwhelming. And before Mai's eyes, the warrior in front of him, the warrior responsible for the death and violation of his mother, began to change. He began to shrink and shrink and change and shrink. And Mai still continued with this note of purity, a note of love carried into the atmosphere. And still, this figure shrunk. And when Mai stopped and looked at the warrior below him, when he came back to his present self, realizing that the man had not attacked him, even though he was no longer fighting the warrior, he saw a pile of clothes on the ground, and wrapped up in the clothes was a newborn baby, a newborn, innocent baby. And that, my friends, is the end of the story of Mai Baraka the Moor, otherwise known as the Barakat. Thank you very much. So, as I said, that story is a very long story, and I tried to bring together all the themes to make some kind of flow. So you may have seen me stumbling at times, but that's because the part that I was saying didn't really follow the part that I said before, and I just had to kind of put it all together. But thank you, Olivia. What I wanted to say in reference to this is just that affirmation, we use the term affirmation to mean a positive statement, but an affirmation, as I said at the beginning, can also be a negative statement. Actually, we can affirm the negative just in the same way as we can affirm the positive. How many of you know people who, whenever you meet them, always talk about an injury, ailment, or illness as if it is their being? They talk about my heart problem. Oh, yeah, the hip. Oh, my leg injury. Oh, my head. Oh, my diabetes. Oh, my whatever it is. They talk about it as if it is them, their whole being. That's a form of affirmation. That's a way of keeping in relationship to the illness and also in the depth of the illness. When we talk about affirmation here, we're talking about the opposite of that, which is about being in relation to those things that will serve our resonance, which will lift our vibration, which will somehow improve our energetic being in service of our physical being. That's really what I mean by affirmation. So in that story, the rapist and the violator, the murderer, represents that aspect of us which we all have. The darkness, the shadow side of us, that which would kill and maim and rape if we were in situations that were not protected by law, protected by the upbringing that we've had. And this has been revealed so often on the world stage in the way in which child soldiers, for example, are forced to kill their own parents, and then they become monsters. Not because they were born monsters, but because their self-belief now is that they are monsters. Self-belief. Self-belief is key. What we say to ourselves, it can make us, it can break us. Before I continue, I'm just going to read what I can see in the chat. What is, Ladine, what is the purpose in focusing on water in the chest position? Is it important that the affirmations focus on a particular content at a certain body position? Yes and no. And what I mean by that is I was focusing, Ladine, on the heart. And because the heart pumps blood around the body, the element of that, for me, that most resonates with that clearly is water. But you will each have your own systems. You will have a relationship to elements that may be different from that. And nothing that I say requires you to change what you already understand. It's just that I'm adding another perspective. I only spoke of the air when I was up here because my head is closer to the sky. And the sky, the elements of the sky is the air. But I could equally have spoken of fire since it's closer to the sun. And so there was something arbitrary around the elements, but it was a sense-making arbitrariness in answer to your question. Eunice says that it was super interesting. He loves Parsifal also, as I do. If you don't know the legend of Parsifal, I suggest that you get to know it. It's superb. Ladine says, oh, I see, thank you. That's helpful. Sorry to take you away from the story. Actually, you didn't take me away from the story, Ladine. And please, anybody who wants to ask me a question, please feel free to do so at any time, because the engagement is the most important part. As I said in the beginning, the wisdom is in the group. And I must just make this disclaimer again. I am no guru. I am not connected to the divine wisdom of the universe and the man with all the answers. And if you ask me, I'll be able to tell you about your inner life without even knowing you. That's not me. That's not me. What I am is somebody who tunes in to my own inner knowing, who's humble enough to know that there is something mightier than I am, something greater, infinite, that some people call God. Some will say the Almighty, some will say the universe. I like to use the term the unknowable, for I don't fully know what it is, but I do know that it is greater than I can imagine. And because of that, I can call upon that in order to bring some clarity to my own internal environment. And I express some of that internal environment in my storytellings, which is basically all that I am doing here now. So where do we go from here? Naturally, we are going to do something affirmational together. Otherwise, there'd be no point to this whole engagement. I'm just feeling very joy-filled today, so I'm smiling a lot. I don't know if it's because you're all smiling at me. It could be. But I'm feeling really, really happy to be here. And thank you, Reb Jennifer, for that smile. And to you also, Kathy and Lisa. I'm just seeing smiles, Eunice, Ubuntu, and seeing a smile. For those of you who don't know, but I'm sure Eunice does, Ubuntu means I am because we are. We are because I am. It's an African philosophy. And it's a philosophy that I try to live by. That's why I say I am not a guru. I might be a muse to some of you. Perhaps the things that I say might inspire you, but that's because I am you and you are me. So we are all connected. So what I share is already yours even before I share it. Yeah. So next, let us do a short visualization. And what I would like to put forward is that in this visualization, let us see if we can allow an affirmational phrase that serves us to blossom in our minds and in our hearts. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And as usual, I will say that in visualization, I may describe something that you don't follow. You may find yourself on a beach when I describe a forest. You may find yourself in a supermarket or in your home whenever I describe anything. You might see in glorious Technicolor, in HD clarity. You might see nothing at all. You might see in black and white. You might only hear things or feel things. But whatever your experience is, that's perfect. there's no way to get this wrong because it's not a test. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, or to just soften your focus so that you're not looking at anything in particular. And now I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath through your nose or through your mouth if you have a cold. And just begin to pay attention to the feeling of the air passing through your nostrils. The felt sensation of the breath in your nose. As you breathe in and as you breathe out. Just feeling that sensation. And if your thoughts wander, just bring them gently back to the felt sensation, the physical sensation of the breath as you breathe in and out of your nostrils. And you can also pay attention to the feeling of the clothes on your body, the weight of your body on the surface you are sitting on, laying on or standing on. The feeling of your feet in your socks, shoes, or on the ground. And as you breathe in and as you breathe out, you can also feel that your breath is connected to your belly, your chest, as well as your nose. And feel the felt sensation of the breath in your belly and in your chest at the same time as you feel it in your nostrils as you breathe in and out, out and in. And you can just imagine that your body is becoming more and more relaxed, perhaps feeling a bit heavier as you sink into a relaxed state of being. And with each out breath, perhaps your body can become increasingly relaxed, becoming more relaxed with each out breath. And I'm going to ask you to imagine that in front of you there's a door. And you can reach out and touch the door, see what it feels like. Is it rough? Is it smooth? What does it look like? What color is it? Maybe you can reach out with your nose and smell it. Perhaps it has a smell. On the other side of this door is the land where your affirmational pool of being is. A land where you are able to tap in to your affirmational self. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to open this door and walk through. And you can do that now. Open the door and walk through into this land where your affirmational self lives. And call your affirmational self to come to you. When it comes, pay attention to what it is. Perhaps it's a human or an animal. Perhaps it's something else. Maybe you can't even see anything, but just have an impression of something. And now take a moment to ask your affirmational self to furnish you with an affirmation that serves you in the now that will help you in whatever endeavors and circumstances you are dealing with in life at this moment in time. And just take a moment to listen for what that affirmation is. And now you can thank your affirmational self for what it has shared with you. And you can just take a moment to breathe in that which you have learnt, the affirmation that has been shared. And you can repeat that affirmation just to make sure that it stays with you. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to say goodbye to your affirmational self and also to this land where your affirmational self lives, knowing, as always, that you can come back to this land and to your affirmational self anytime you like, because it's in your own mind. And so now I'd ask you to go back to the door and open the door, go through to the other side and come back into this room and stretch and bring yourself back into this space. And I'd ask you to just remain in the silence. And if you have a pen and paper with you, then please write down the affirmation that you received. If you feel as though you didn't receive an affirmation, then write down whatever affirmation comes to you now in this moment. And I'll take time for those of you who need to go and get a pen and paper. Okay, so what I would like you to do now is, of course, write down the affirmation on the paper. And what I'm going to share with you is a process that you're probably already familiar with, particularly if you've ever read The Artist's Way or any book like that. It's a process called free writing or stream of consciousness time writing. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And in that 3 minutes, I'm going to ask you to write whatever comes to your mind based on your affirmation that you've written at the top of your page, which is like a springboard for whatever is going to come next. So the only rules are that you keep your pen writing. So if you're thinking, I don't know what to write, then write, I don't know what to write. And write it as many times as you need to until something else occurs to you. Then write that down. No matter how inane, frivolous, or foolish it may seem, just write it down. Grammar is not important. Punctuation is not important. In fact, if you are a writer, do not try to edit it. That's harder for writers than for the rest of us. Do not edit it. Just write it. If you're thinking, what on earth is Sola talking about? Right. What on earth is Sola talking about? This is long. Right. This is long. I'm sure you get the picture. So when I say start, begin writing. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And when I say stop, then please stop. So I've got my stopwatch right here. If there are any questions, please ask the questions now related to this exercise. And if there are none, then I'm going to begin. Okay, start, please. Your affirmation is a springboard. So even if you write something that is unrelated to your affirmation, it doesn't matter. But let that be the first thing, the first thought is your affirmation. And 3 minutes is up. So next, what I invite you to do is to read through what you've written and just underline 3 phrases that make real sense to you. And it may make sense because you like the way it looks. It may be that you like the way that they sound. Perhaps there's some poetic resonance to them. Maybe it's the meaning that you like. But just underline 3 phrases that catch your eye for some reason. Okay, hands up if you need more time. Okay, so we're all good. Right, excellent. What I'm going to invite you to do now is to go into breakout rooms of 3 people each. And in your breakout rooms, just choose who's going to share first. Remember that what you have there is yours. So I'm going to ask you to, if you will, share the affirmation. If not, that's fine. Share the 3 phrases, or if one of them feels too personal to you, share 2 phrases, but you choose what you share. So if it feels too personal, it's fine. But I'm going to invite you to share with each other. And the 2 people who are listening, what I'm going to ask you to do is to really practice the essence of listening. Pay them with your attention, which I believe is what pay attention means. So really listen with a quality of listening that is almost numinous, if you can. Try not to be thinking about other things or rehearsing what you're going to read. See if you can be really present in the moment to what is being shared with you. And then when they have finished, please thank them for sharing it with you. And also, you thank them, you the one that is speaking, thank them for listening so deeply. And we're going to give you 5 minutes in that room. So let the shares happen first, and then you can have a brief discussion around it. Then we'll come back into the bigger space and we'll talk about this whole process. Does that sound okay? Yeah. All right, Randall, thank you. Whenever you're ready, if you'll let people go into their breakout rooms.
And
welcome back, people. Welcome back. I hope that you had a rich experience. Before I go into basically mining some of the gems that you shared with each other, I've got a couple of questions here that I want to answer. Where is it? Eunice asked, where can I learn more about Parsifal's brother Mai, son of Belikane? And unfortunately, in the Epic of Parsifal, it only mentions that Garumet had a son and that he was mixed race, although it says that his body was half black and half white. And it says no more than that. It just moves away. But that's the reason why I wrote that story, because I thought, well, this boy needs a life too. So I wrote the story to give him a life. And love, we have love is powerful. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And also, do these phrases need to be good or just meaningful? And I'm trusting that you found your way in that. What's the meaning of the newborn baby? Well, the newborn baby is of course innocence, but in that story at that point, what it's doing is referencing the truth that we can go through many things. We can become embittered. We can have harrowing, terrible experiences in childhood or at other times. But the innocence that we were born with is our essence, and it remains even if we can't find it. But there are ways in which to return to it. And the story is a metaphor for that. So if I were to say, who are you in the story, I would say that you, we are everybody in the story, from the murderer to the enslaver, because we enslave ourselves with chocolate and TV and different alcohol and drugs or sex or whatever it is. We get addicted to things, which is like enslavement. So we carry our slave masters around with us, and we have thoughts that we would never share with anybody else, because we would know what kind of reaction other people would have if we shared those thoughts, you know. So, but also the courageous, strong, in tune warrior is part of us too. The lion is also part of us, which is the manifestation of that which is greater than us, that if we tune into it in whatever ways that we have, can actually raise our vibration and have us resonate in a different way with different truths. So that's what that's about in a very truncated way. But now, what I would like to do is give you the opportunity to perhaps share something about that process. Perhaps you might want to talk about the visualization, or what you met with in terms of the affirmation, or any of the stages that you feel to share. And if anybody wants to unmute and speak, please do so. And you can also write in the chat too.
I'll share if it's okay.
Yes, of course, it's okay. It's fine.
Okay. So I'm Ladine, and the affirmation that came, hi there, was I am enough, here and now. And what seemed to be significant was here and now. You know, there was this kind of stressing of here and now. Yeah. I think that's all I'll share.
Thank you, Ladine. Thank you very much. And also, when Ladine or anybody else shares, if they say something that you resonate with, you can just do a little shake, or you can do a reaction hand up, just to say, yeah, me too. I get you. So thanks for that, Ladine. Ladine's talking about the here and now, the present moment in which all affirmations occur anyway. So yeah, anybody else like to say something? Oh, Aluvia says, my affirmation brought me to tears since I don't consciously perceive myself this way. I hear that. Dantong says, thank you for your lovely presence, Jennifer and Benedetta. So we are affirming for each other as well.
Amen. Amen. May I share?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. First of all, it was amazing because when you said to open the door, I walked out onto a beach. So I walked onto land, and then there was the ocean for me. And myself, I was this beautiful dolphin that came up and said to me, my love is enough for you. So it resonated with what Ladine says. I was like, yes, Ladine, my love is enough for you. Another phrase that came up was, remember to laugh at yourself. Remember to laugh at yourself. And the third one that I highlighted says, you are not perfect, but are perfectly loved. You are not perfect, but are perfectly loved. Thank you for letting me share. Appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, what comes to me from that is just that as long as the affirmation resonates with you, as long as it resonates with you. That's the important thing here. Thank you for that, Rev Jennifer. Are there any other shares?
I would like to share.
Please
If
do,
I
then,
may.
and
Okay.
then Danton.
Yeah, okay. I will be brief. When I opened the door, I was kind of overwhelmed by a stream of colors and beautiful smells. And it was like this room was pouring, this land was pouring inside of me. And it was like without space, with a lot of colors, and it was beautiful. And my affirmation self, it was version of me, like a translucent version of me, ethereal version of me with a like purple dress, and it was beautiful, and it streamed light on me. And the affirmation was, I am pure beauty and grace. And then it was all about a stream of pleasure of being alive, beautiful, all the, stream of consciousness that I wrote down. It was just about this stream and this inspiration and pleasure, really be the pleasure of being. And that is what that is. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, wow. Wow, thank you. Thank you. Kantong, you were going to share, I think.
Yes, I just want to share my experience are quite different. I fell asleep during the meditation, so I only heard your guidance about the air through the nose, and then I totally passed away. I didn't hear anything, and then your sentence like you're going to receive an affirmation woke me up, and I was like, what? What happened? I don't know what. And then there was a sentence that came into my mind, totally not what I normally would think about. So I just wrote it down. And the free writing was a challenge for me too. But I just, like you said, I wrote everything down, and a sentence sounded like, I don't know. I was thinking, oh, I don't know what to write. But then something else came. So, and then I underlined 3 phrases. So that's what I got is not typically what I would think about. But somehow they fit kind of together. I could share. The affirmation was like, let your heart sing like a bird. The rest will find you. And the 3 phrases are, you are always there with me, within me, blossom in my heart. And the last one was feel alive.
What was the first one, the one that you were given? So let your heart sing
like a bird. The rest will find you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So hands up if anybody else fell asleep, because I often do, actually. And did other people have problems with the free writing as well? Okay, so what I wanted to just quickly share before anybody else shares is, I was just reading something, is that let your heart find you. What you get as your affirmation from your affirmational self, use that too, but change it to my and I. So let my heart find me, etc. So that it becomes an actual affirmation. Because the most powerful part of an affirmation is a statement of I am and things related to me. Because that means that I am making this my own.
Okay.
Hi, Jocelyn.
Hello. Because I'm having so much fun listening to everyone else's, I will share. My affirmation was, you are light, you are love, and you are content. The first statement I underlined was, you are forever loved. So I am forever loved. Forever held in the arms of the divine. My greatest gift. So I'll change the first affirmation to, I am light, I am love, I am content. So thank you for that feedback.
Thank you for sharing that, Jocelyn. And I have to say that when you affirmed your affirmations then, I really believed you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hi, Maytal. Yeah, please go.
Thank you. Well, I had a different experience and I would like to share it.
Mhm.
So when I opened the door, I saw a beautiful, I don't know, castle where the queen lives. And 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 I was happy to see it. And I looked and I saw a woman, and I thought maybe it's me. And and then I looked at her again, and I saw someone else, like a transference of someone else that I had known from the past, which I considered as an awakened person, a student, which I hated. And she looked at me and said, I love you. You love me. There's love in the world. And I don't know, I felt it somehow teasing, and I was very disappointed that she is in front of me. and, um, so then I somehow thanked her and go back and started to do my own affirmation about speaking with awakened people and how I love myself and can overcome every situation, and communicate with self-love and truth with awakened people, egocentric and caring as one. That's all.
Thank you, Maytal. Actually, yours was, I'll come to you in 1 second, Eunice. Yours was to me, was quite evocative. It made me think of forgiveness and its role in not only in affirmations, but in our lives in terms of moving on and transformation. And I'm really glad you called that into being. Even if you didn't call it intentionally, that's what resonated with me. And I'm going to, in a moment, ask us to do something around that actually, or something which encapsulates that. So thank you for that, Maytal. And Eunice, would you care to share?
You mean me, or what did you say?
Yeah, I think you had your hand up. And
oh
so
yeah,
I was yeah.
Yeah. So I actually caught myself, to be honest, about thinking like, wow, this is such a beautiful experience, and like forgetting to really listen to Meta. So I think in that moment I put my hand up, and then you caught me.
The moral of your story is don't put your hand up in front of me.
Yeah, I'm really loving hearing you all.
Thank you, Eunice. I appreciate that, and thank you for your wonderful energy too.
Thank you.
So, I would like to move on, but is there anybody who has a pressing, like really wants to say something before I move on, or can I move on? Okay, so we've got just over 15 minutes. So what I would say to you now is, with your pieces of paper, if you could just, let me see. Actually, forget the boxes. I was going to say draw 4 boxes, but don't worry with that. Write, this is what happened. Then leave a couple of lines and write, this is what I made it mean. Then leave a couple of lines and write, this is the mask I wear. And then leave a couple of lines and write, this is my affirmation. Now, Those four things. So if you like, I'll say it again. So the first one is, this is what happened. And this is what happened can mean anything. So for some of us, our parents split up. Our dad beat our mum. We are children who come from parents who were addicted, and we were born with fetal alcohol syndrome, or we have a disability that we feel really angry about, or we have, for me, it was racism. Racism was something that really impacted me from the time I was 6, when people started to call me names. That was when I first encountered racism, and it really did hurt me. And my parents, who were both Yoruba from Nigeria, didn't understand the experiences of a boy growing up in the northern town of Manchester in 1970s England. So they were not actually any help. Plus, they were shouting at each other at that point as well. So what did I make it mean, which is the next one? Well, what did I make it mean? I made it mean that the things that I was called, ugly, stupid, my dad used to call me stupid, worthless, I called myself that, rubbish, all of these things, that's what I made it mean. Now, the first part, what happened was true. My mum and dad did argue. People did call me names. There was racism. What I made it mean, though, was more important than the things that happened. Because it's what I made it mean that I acted upon. It's what I made it mean. So what mask did I wear? Well, all of us as humans are really perfect at acting. We have pain, we have our experiences, we share what we choose to share of that in the way that we choose to share it. However, we do it so often that we may not be aware that we're doing it, which is why I call it a mask. So I was always a joker at school. I was a class joker, a class clown. Why? Because I felt worthless. So I wanted people to like me. And I would do anything. So I would agree to foolishness and capitulate to things I didn't agree with just to be liked, because I thought I was worthless. I didn't want anybody else to know this. So obviously I didn't introduce myself to people. Hi, my name's Sola. I'm worthless, ugly, and stupid. I would instead act like I was a clown and joke around all the time, to cover up how I really felt about myself. What was my affirmation? Well, after many years of experience of different modalities of healing and conversations and meditation, etc., I came upon an affirmation which some of you have already shared, which is, I am enough. I am beautiful as I was created. I am everything I was supposed to be. And I said that to myself over and over again, along with some affirmations that I read as well. Some from Louise Hay, actually, from the book You Can Heal Yourself, and others. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy, etc. I would say it in the bath, in the street, whenever I remembered. I would take a deep breath and I would say those affirmations. So I'm hoping that you all have things there that have some meanings to you. And what I'm going to ask us to do now is just to take a moment, look back at your page, see what happened. You can't do anything about that. It's already happened. However, and this is where the forgiveness part comes in, what you made it mean is what you made it mean. Even though what happened could have been terrible, what you made it mean, you made it mean. What happened is what happened. But please understand that there's a difference between what happened and what you made it mean about you. Not what you made it mean about the circumstance, what you made it mean about you. That's the important thing. Because if you're a 6-year-old child or a 10-year-old child, if your parents break up or something happens, often children take this on board as they are at fault. They were unable to keep their parents together. They couldn't stop their father from beating their mother, etc., etc. All of these kind of things. They couldn't stop the people from breaking in and doing whatever they did. So what you made it mean, that's the part that you can change. What you made it mean. And that's where the affirmation comes in. So what I'm going to ask us to do now is the same thing that we did before when we stood up, but this time in your individual spaces, whenever you're doing the tapping, say the affirmation that you have. And that affirmation hopefully will be in response to what you made it mean. We don't need to know what the actual thing was. We're not asking you to share that at all. In fact, I'm not even asking you to share anything. But if you were going to share something, it wouldn't be what happened, because I do not wish to re-traumatize anybody. But what I do want is for you to really make that affirmation resonant. And I'm hoping that what I'm sharing with you is a practice that you may take forward, perhaps uniting the physical, the embodiment, with the word and the thought, so that it actually concretizes itself in your body as an affirmation in the here and the now. Because your body is always here and now. It's always present, but your thoughts can be in the past or in the future. So if we all stand up again or sit down as you will, and I'll just once again. So starting again above the groin and below the abdomen, and we're just swinging from left to right, but as we're swinging, we're exchanging our arms, and at the same time we are affirming. So an affirmation that I now say every day in Yoruba is, I am the Ashe Alafia of health, wealth, strength, and wisdom. That's my affirmation. But I'm going to be quiet now just so that you can affirm your own affirmation to yourself. And if you also look at me so you can see when I change hand positions. Okay, just take a moment, let that percolate. If you cup your hands as if you have a ball, and then just hold it above your groin and below your navel, and just feel the energetic of that, like two magnets of the same pole pushing each other apart. Settle your breath. And take this energy and place it where you feel it will most serve you at this moment in time. And let's return to our seats. Okay, so my wish is that even if this particular iteration of affirmational processes is not the one that you choose to use, that you consider the potential of uniting a physical practice with your affirmational practice, so that you're constantly bringing light and awareness to what is positive and generative for you, at the same time as you are doing something positive and generative, so that after some time, doing the positive thing will result in the affirmation and therefore mental and emotional well-being, and doing the affirmation will result in physical well-being, because your neurological pathways will be formed in a way that links both. So it doesn't have to be what I showed you. I just gave you an example so that you can copy that, or your own practice of yoga, martial arts, Pilates, running, jogging, walking, whatever it is that you do. But just bring some awareness to having it be an affirmational practice. And for those of you who already do your own practice, I would urge you to continue, even though you might want to try out mine as perhaps an addition to what you already do. I am really interested in what you have learned today. And we've only got 5 minutes, 3 minutes. So if people would please either unmute or put in the chat a response to this statement. I have learned, therefore I will. I have learned, therefore I will. And just respond to that so that we can all benefit from whatever you share.
That I am on the right path, therefore I will continue to do the work, even on the days that don't feel heart-filled for me. It's a part of the journey.
Thank you, Mary. Ashe. Ashe means so it must be. It's Yoruba. It's a word of power. Ashe. Aluvia says, I have learned that it is safe to be seen. Therefore, I will be open to be seen. Ashe. Joan says, I have learned to follow my higher self to my next venture. Ashe.
I have learned my well-being is essential to world peace. Therefore, I will take care of myself.
Ashe. Thank you, Jocelyn. Maytal says, I have learned that things come up to me exactly as I need them, that I can be strong, empowered, and it is worth it. Therefore, I will look for more of these exercises and practice them. Ashe. Shelley says, I have learned that I am all that I need, therefore I will be free. Ashe. Melissa Mary says, Ashe also. Melissa says, I have learned that I can shape my vision of what I want to create. I will create a ritual as a kind of nest to nurture and grow my affirmation. Ashe. Ladine says, I have learned that I am of value. Therefore, I will love myself. Ashe. Benedetta says, I have learned that love and grace are always there for us. Therefore, I will remember it in times of challenge. Ashe. Thank you all for these. Rev Jennifer says, thank you, Sola. You are most welcome. Thank you. Maytal says, may I ask where are these exercises from? So we call them opening the gate exercises in our martial practice of KaZimba Ngoma. But I know that in Qigong, which is from China, that those are some of the exercises, but Qigong is a vast, if you like, lexicon of different exercises, not just those ones. Sheila says, I have learned that what I need will come at the right time. Therefore, I will receive whatever comes in its own time. Ashe. Zhang says, I have learned that I am everything that I see and experience outside. Ashe. Shelley says, thank you, Sola. And I say, thank you, Shelley. Catherine says, Sola, such a wonderful day's experience today. Gratitude for your affirming smile, joy, energy. Such fun. Love, oh, that's a kiss. Love your stories, parables, and teachings. Limitless affirming possibilities. Thank you. Thank you. Maytal says, thank you, Sola. Thank you, Maytal. And Ladine says, thank you, Olusola. Beautiful awarenesses I've had as a result of the process you've offered. I really enjoyed the story and your telling of it. Thank you. I think that we will need to bring the process to a close in honor of your time. And so I'm going to thank you all. Filled with gratitude once again. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for listening to what I have to offer and valuing it, because that in itself is a powerful affirmation for me. Honestly, you have no idea how much that is an affirmation. I truly appreciate it. So I'm going to hand back over now to Lisa and say to you all, Hashima, which means respect.
Thank you so much, Sola. It's always so wonderful to have you be with us. And I agree with so much of the beautiful sharings. There's such heartfelt presence and warmness through your teachings that you really are this embodiment of love. It's just really heartfelt to be with you. So thank you so much. And I just want to presence before we end very quickly that we have some upcoming events. The next one is May 13th at 1 p.m. EST. It's on a different Zoom link. We're going to have Lei Moonhua with us. He's an incredible filmmaker that has done a story around the Asian culture, and also he's also done some other films called The Color of Fear that are representative of different experiences of some Black men. And so the presentation will be focused on the Asian story. So that's May 13th at 1 p.m. And then on May 27th, we have Sola again. And that session will be through hope. Though hope seems frail, it's hard to kill the evolutionary gate of love. And I can't wait to hear that one. So, and the stories that come forth. So thank you all so much for being with us today. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event.